So Paolo, if you want to go ahead and start recording, just do our informal hi and welcome to everyone. Hi to our attendees as well as our panelists. A special hi to our new panelists, our new commissioners. That's awesome. I wanted to start our meeting by just acknowledging that today is very weird. And if this is a fulfilling way for you to be present with that weirdness, we're super grateful for your time. If you need to take care of yourself or your people and you just quietly exit this meeting at some point, zero judgment, zero penalties. We want you to be giving your time and to not be sitting here thinking about all the other things you need to be doing, especially today. I am gonna, nope, I'm not. As I say, I'm gonna attempt to share my screen to just show us our, yes, I am, here we go. Oh, I'm gonna stick out my tongue, but I'm just gonna show our agenda so that folks know what we're doing tonight. We'll do minutes approval. Remember that we are approving both November and December. Public participation, some time to welcome new members. We'll have our liaison updates, which I'll turn over to Paolo as well. We have scheduled tonight to do our elections. We have a very packed agenda. So we can discuss when we get to that point if we want to do that tonight or postpone that to a future meeting. And then the meat of tonight is like formalizing our work of the last 6 months. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about that for now because I'm excited about it. So for minutes approval, I'm gonna unshare my screen so that I can see. There we go, so I can actually see humans. For minutes approval, do we have a motion to approve either, or do we have a motion to approve the November minutes? Let's start with November minutes.
Motion to approve November minutes.
And that's
Excellent.
Stephanie. Okay.
Stephanie, and do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tanya. If you are in favor, my goodness, you are in favor of approving the November minutes, if you could raise your hand either digitally, virtually, or like actually just put your physical hand up. So all in favor. If anyone is opposed to approving the November minutes, okay, so everybody put your hands down. Sorry, I have to do that step. Everybody unraise your hands. If there is there anyone who is opposed to approving the November minutes? You can raise your hand in any format. Do we have any abstentions? Okay.
Just clarification, aren't those the October minutes? Aren't they
November and December.
Oh, November. Okay, because it says October at the top. So just pointing that out.
Okay, it should. I looked through it. I'll just change the title of it, but it actually is November minutes. I promise.
Thank you so much, Dory. I have too many windows open. That's why.
No reading.
Thank you, Dory. I feel like Joy's like, we don't really read them here. New members, we do really read them. Okay, thank you so much. So November minutes approved. I really want a little gavel. What we do in my classroom when we transition is we do jazzy little snaps. It's a way to indicate that we're snapping off to other things. So next is our December minutes. This is the part where I say, has everybody had a chance to read the December minutes? And then everyone nods. Or if you didn't read them, you don't actually have to nod, like that's okay.
Or you
and then were there any questions or clarifications on the December minutes? Go for it, Dory.
Just one. I didn't get a chance to watch the last meeting, but I didn't take notes on what Kosakam said at the end, but I think we may have some of it kind of scrambled. So with correction, I would move that we approve these minutes just to that last line.
Okay, thank you, Dory. So maybe we can follow up.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're talking about. Yeah. From Postpone. Okay, cool. So Dory has moved to approve with a potential edit to just the very last line. Do we have a second for that motion?
Who's gonna second?
Thank you, Spencer. I see Spencer waving
Spencer.
at us. All in favor of approving the December minutes? Raise your hand in some form. I will raise mine as well. Give Joy a second if you need to capture that. I don't know if you need to actually count. I usually do an informal count. Okay, and then well, you can put your so we put your hand down, and then if there are there any opposed to approving the December minutes? Okay. Lisa left her hand up, but I also don't see Lisa. There we go. I had it. And then are there any abstentions? Okay, thank you, Kathy.
Oh.
Which I think is legit, right? Because you weren't. I always, when I was brand new, I certainly abstained from the first round of them, right? Like, I don't know what you people approve. Okay, so November and December minutes are approved. I'm going to mute myself and turn it over to Paolo for the next two chunks of the agenda.
Cool. Thank you so much. Next piece on the agenda is public participation. We have one person joining us today. Hello, Karen. Welcome back and Happy New Year. Karen, I'm going to go ahead and press the allow to talk button. As a reminder, folks, it's usually we have 2 minutes per person or 10 minutes total for the public participation. So letting everyone else know here. Karen, I think, is a regular, so they know this. But otherwise, if people have additional questions or comments, they could go to the HREC website where there's an HREC comment form. So Karen, I'm turning on your mic now and welcome back.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Yes, I sent in a letter to the Human Rights Council on November 20th. And I'm actually surprised that I did not hear from anyone. I took a lot of time, and it was a very thoughtful letter that I wrote to all of you about my concerns about police reform in Beaverton, particularly pertaining to mental illness and addiction. And personally, I serve on some advisory councils here in Washington County and Oregon. And if someone wrote me a letter like that, boy, I would be on the phone picking their brain and finding out what experience they've had and how they can help me to understand how I could better serve people in my community. And I have not heard from one single one of you. And I'm quite appalled. The only thing, the chair said in one of the meetings, in the September meeting, that you had extensive discussions about mental health. Yet there are no recommendations on the latest list of recommendations I've seen so far. And you did talk about mental health for the Beaverton police. And yes, I agree with that. That should be something that should be offered to the Beaverton police. But that's it? You got to be kidding me. I listed I listed a number of concerns and suggestions in my letter, my November 20th letter to you. And I'm hoping all of you read them. And I was wondering if anyone had any questions or comments, or are these things going to be addressed in your recommendations to City Council? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen. So our policy does say that we can't respond directly to that right now, and that's part of our time constraint. But that's good to know that you sent that in and that you didn't feel like you got a response to that. So we will investigate. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. We want people to feel like they're heard. So thank you.
I have it noted. Thanks, Karen.
Thanks, Paolo.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
As a new person, how do we respond to those letters?
Sure. I could just speak to historically what I have done is I check the comment forms regularly, and then I share it with the commission. Usually it's an attachment to the liaison updates. So I'm not sure if people saw the message from I see a few nodding heads from this would be in the December meeting then. And it sounded like there wasn't a response in that space. But usually the responses would happen during the meetings, or they might happen outside of the meetings, whether I respond or sometimes there's been like a specific request for something with BPD, and then I forward it over to chief and lieutenant. But it really depends on what the ask is or what the comment is.
Could you send me a copy of that letter, please, Paolo?
Yeah, I share it with everybody, and I'll resend it again.
Okay.
So I have it noted to resend the specifically Karen J's comment from November.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Paolo. And yeah, and thanks, Kathy, for the clarifying question. So we don't have other public attendees. So I think, Paolo, you're up also for the next agenda item.
Could I comment or no? I mean,
I think what we've found very consistently is that this part of the meeting can take a very, very long time if we all respond individually to each of the public comments. And so in the spirit of that, as we've been asking public commentary to be brief, that we also want to keep our comments brief. And in fact, that we want to prevent ourselves from responding, because I'll just say that was a very like procedural answer. It doesn't feel fair to me to say to people, you can speak for 2 minutes and then we can respond to you, but you can't say anything back.
And so can she respond in what's left of the 10 minutes? Is that what you're telling her?
No, so it's 2 minutes per person. So she's given her comment. And so unless I'm misinterpreting, or alternatively, if folks want to have, so I'm kind of strong arming because I really want to get us to our wrapping up our work from last year with our recommendations.
Can I motion to add this to the agenda if we have time at the end?
Yes, that would be awesome. Thank you, Lisa.
Cool. All right, thank you. The next piece, so y'all might recognize we have a few new members, new faces with us here. And so we just wanted to take some time for everybody to do a quick intro. I know it's not the same as the same vibe that we have when we're in the room together and we're all eating in a circle together, but at very least we could introduce ourselves here. And so I'll go ahead and just call folks out in the order that I see on my screen. But you have it on your agenda. Just if you could please introduce yourself, and I'll let you share what you want to share in that piece. How long have you been on the board? If you're a returning member, how long have you been with the HRAC? What brings you here? And I'm going to also add gender pronouns. If you could please share your gender pronoun. And I'm assuming others also do not want to make assumptions for how you identify. So if you could please share that with us. And so I'll go ahead and turn it over. Mercy, I see you first. So
what?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat, okay? Introduce yourself. How long have you been with HRAC? And what brings you here?
Hi, everyone. It's very nice to see all these faces. Happy New Year. My name is Mercy Hennessy. I came to America and my name was Mercy Koffa. I've been on the board for 2 years now. I'm trying to go into my 3rd year. Right, Paolo? I'm sure. What brings me here? Hey, I am a refugee that came to America to seek peace. because I was told that because your country is fighting war, if you go to America, it's peaceful. And as a refugee, I had 2 boys that I raised out here in Beaverton. I've been in America for 20 years, in other 3 states, and in Beaverton for 10 years. So raising those boys from 4 years to now 20 to 22 years old, it was a tough thing. And trying to find answer to see why we were being treated the way we were being treated by police and other people. And one day stepped into the city hall and was introduced to what all was going on there. And I went to visit this boy, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna come here because maybe somebody will listen to me and understand what's going on in the city. So what other question did he answer? Is that all?
Gender pronouns?
Gender pronoun. I have her, she, her, and hers.
Thank you.
I never like to do that because I don't know, I just don't want to do it. But you ask me, I will do it.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Semenci, and I've served on the board my first year as an alternate, and I've been on the Human Rights Advisory Commission now for 2 years as a member. You know, I think I came to the commission and wanted to participate and volunteer in this commission because I have seen so much injustice in our country and a real shift in human rights and what we pay attention to in our country. And my child is biracial and my husband is an immigrant, and I felt really strongly that I needed to step forward and to put my voice out there to serve so that I could be a part of the solution and be a part of finding answers for everyone to have justice and for everyone to have equality. And I'm really pleased and proud to be a part of this commission and the amazing work that we have been doing in the past 3 years. I'm so grateful to be a part of it. Thanks.
Thank you. Kathy, welcome.
Thank you. I moved here the day of the lockdown, and I had been quite active in Utah, a little active in Illinois. Human rights, peace kinds of things. I'm a retired professor, and I do want to participate where I live. And at the first Black Lives Matter demonstration near the library, I saw mostly white faces, not all white, but mostly. It was kind of a pale demonstration. And there was a boy, when I was walking home, there was a boy and his mother, and they were both Black. And the boy had a poster in red handprints as if they were in blood. And the boy was about 13, looked like my kids, except mine are paler. And the poster said, "Hands up, don't shoot." And his mom just looked at me. And I felt awful. I didn't know what was wrong. I got home and I realized it was shame. I'd met Andrew Young and Dolores Huerta and introduced them to people. Done lots of things, but I had never protected a Black child. And that's what I was so ashamed of. And so I thought, well, as I'm working in this community, I am determined to do whatever I can. And so I started attending these meetings and DAB meetings and some city council meetings, some school board meetings. And here I am. So,
Welcome, Kathy.
yeah, I expect to be pretty active here.
And welcome back as an official member of ATRAC.
Thanks, Paolo.
Did you and Stephanie, did you both say your gender pronouns?
Oh, I'm she, her.
I also am she, her. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Lieutenant Stellingwerf, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Good evening. Neil Stellingwerf, I think it's he and his, I believe. I'm with the police department, with the community service division. I've been the liaison to this board since about November of 19, I believe, maybe December, something like that. So I'm here if you have any questions, whether we're at the meeting or offline. My phone number and email are always available. So if you have anything, please get a hold of me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pronouns.
Dory, I have you next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dory King. I'm going to say my pronouns, and then I'm going to make a statement about pronouns. My pronouns are she and her, and that is easy for me to say because I identify as cisgender. So I just want to give, to open it to people to say that you don't have to give your pronouns if you're not comfortable with that in this public space, right? Since everything is being recorded. So, sorry, just had to put that editorial comment in. I've been on ATRAC for 2 years. I am a person who tries to live a social justice life. So in living a social justice life, it means you show up, it means you do the work, and it means you help and support the place where you live. So that's why I'm here.
And thank you for that comment as well on pronouns. Cameron.
Cameron Green, he, him. Let's see, been here for a year now, and I came here because this is basically an extension of everything else I do. I'm a lawyer primarily focused on criminal defense and civil rights, and this is just kind of an extension of everything I care about, everything I do with my life, and it just made sense for me to be here.
Cool. Thank you so much. Joy, I have you next.
Hi, I'm Joy, she, her. This is also my 1-year anniversary. Hey, Cameron. And I originally got involved in civil rights because I've had terrible things happen to me, even as a white woman. I'm from the Midwest, and you know, when things happen to you, when things happen to me, things can happen to other people too, and I wanted to use my privilege to see what I could do about advocating for other people, because if I think it's terrible, I can't even imagine.
Thanks, Joy. Did you say pronouns? I'm sorry if I missed that part.
Yeah, she, her.
Okay, cool.
Hers. Yeah.
Tanya Cottrell, I have you next.
Hi, I'm Tanya, and let's see, I'm a she, her, hers. I'll just start with that. I came on to, I guess a little background. I'm a social worker for 33 some years, and I've always, was raised doing social justice, and just knowing that that was my place in the world. I was raised Catholic, and so just a big part of that. So I just, being in Beaverton, my kids are finally grown, and now I have more space and time. And so wanted to serve the community in some way. And I came in concerned about housing issues, but always had the, our recent topic of police, how the police work in Beaverton. That was always on my mind, and I'm glad that we're focused or have been focused on that for the past year. And I just see us doing really good work. And I think I just like being here on this committee or commission. So.
Thank you, Tanya. Councilor Hassan, welcome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nadia Hassan, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And this is my first board meeting here with HRAC, although interestingly enough, I have attended HRAC meetings in the past through a former student that y'all might know. For those of you who've been on here longer, Cameron, who used to be a former student of mine as well. I'm really excited to be here, and thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, even if you haven't been on HRAC before, there's a good chance you'll run into Cameron at some point. Very active.
Other Cameron.
Other Cameron.
Other Cameron, yeah.
Cameron Lunford, yep. Laurel, actually, I have you next, so.
Okay. I'm Laurel, pronouns are she, her. I am, as of this moment, I'm still our chair. This is my second term on HRAC, so I just finished up a 3-year term, and I'm going into year 4. And why I decided to come back, because it was a conscious decision to reapply to come back. I felt like I wasn't done. I felt like the work, especially that we were doing last year, felt really meaningful and powerful to me, and I wanted to keep being part of it. I am fired up about everything all the time, and I like that this allows me to connect with other people who are also fired up about everything all the time. And this continues to be one of the things this has been a dumpster fire of a year, and this is a bright spot in that dumpster fire. And I just have so much appreciation for all of you. And I find that after every meeting, I leave really reaffirmed in my faith in humanity, and just with this huge sense of like that people can do things and that people do things. And so that's why I wanted to come back, because I really enjoy all of you so much. And I'm just really thankful for having this in my life.
We're thankful for you too, Laurel. Spencer, I have you next.
Hi, I'm Spencer Ehrman. My pronouns are he and him. I live in South Beaverton. I've been here about 16 years. I believe passionately in community service, and I love Beaverton, and want it to be as good a community as it possibly can. I've, over the last few years, have become increasingly awoke to justice and equity issues, and this is a wonderful forum for advancing that area in our community. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Jared, I have you next.
All right, hi everybody. Great to see so many new faces here. My name is Jared Shaw. Pronouns are he, him, his. This will be my 3rd year on the board, which is crazy to me. Those first 2 years flew by. Yeah, so what made me join? I've always been interested in human rights and activism in my personal and professional lives. Moved here a few years back from the Boston area and was finishing grad school and just realized that I kind of wanted something to do to be more involved in the community. In my professional life, I was working in an immigration law office at the time, right when immigration kind of get more complicated during the Trump era. And then I moved into the governor's office, and now I work in the Department of Education, working with marginalized youth. So really just tried to advocate for those who don't have a voice in the community. So yeah, just wanted to get involved and really contribute back. So it's been a pleasure to be here, and looking forward to getting to know all of you.
Thank you, Jared. And wow, Time does fly. 3 years already.
Wow, I know.
Thank you. Brittany, I got you next.
Unmute myself. My name is Brittany. I use she, her pronouns. What brought me here? Sort of similar to Jared, I graduated in 2019 with my graduate degree and have really just decided that Beaverton is going to be my home for the next several years at least, because I really love it here. And I've been looking for ways to get tangibly involved in my city and very interested in human rights, and especially in the country in light of everything that's been happening the last 2 years. I just really felt like I kept being called in and kept being called to the table and wanted to show up in the best way I possibly could.
Thank you, Brittany.
Thanks.
If I recall, did you graduate from PSU?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I remember that from the interview. I was like, yeah, it's another Viking. Lisa, welcome.
Hi everyone, this is my first year on HRAC. I'm very excited. I'm really inspired by everything everyone has said and excited to work with you all. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I came to HRAC. I'm a family practitioner, a doctor at Virginia Garcia Beaverton, and I moved to Beaverton a year ago when I started my job. I just hit my 1-year anniversary there. And I see injustice every day in my job, and it breaks my heart into a million pieces. And I've always been really passionate about human rights. I focused a lot on reproductive rights, abortion care, kind of in my past life, and more recently kind of environmental justice, and then equity issues, immigration issues. My grandparents are Spanish speaking only, and so I experienced some discrimination there through my dad's side of the family, and just this human rights is really close to my heart. And so that's what drew me here. So hopefully I can lift my spirits a little by doing some of that indirect care through the HRAC while I'm doing direct care with patients and working with them every day.
Thank you, Lisa. Up next, Sabdi.
Hi there. I am new. My name is Sabdi Pacheco Williams. Pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I'm actually new not only to HRAC, but also new to Beaverton, Oregon. I moved here from Miami, Florida, actually right around the lockdown, so in May of last year. So when things are really picking up for the pandemic, ideal time to move. So although I think Oregon's done better than Florida, so it was still the right decision. But anyways, as far as it brought me to HRAC, I think I share the same sentiments as most of you here. There's never a wrong time to focus on standing up for human rights, but after 2020, if you're not doing something, I think that we just all need to be using our time really wisely and making sure that we're advocating for others. So it just felt like the right time to move to new city, start something new, and make sure that I'm dedicating a portion of my time to the community. And that's it. Looking forward to meeting you guys, hopefully sometime in person.
Thank you. Thanks, Sabdi. Yeah, hopefully sometime soon in person. Captain Wandell.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Wandell. I'm the captain of the administrative bureau at the police department. I'm normally with Neil on the DAB meetings, but I'm filling in for Chief Groshong tonight. She's off this week, so you get me instead. So if you have any questions for me, let me know as you go along throughout the evening. But it's nice to meet everybody and welcome the new members to HRAC. And I'll probably be filling in for Chief Groshong on a regular basis if she can't make it. So I probably won't be like a one-time phase. So I appreciate the invitation.
Of course, yeah.
We'll try not to mix you up with her.
Thank you, officer. Brandon Banks.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Paolo. My name is Brandon Banks. I go by he, him, his. I've been in Beaverton now for 16 years. This is my first day for HRAC, so this is all new to me. And what brings me here is that the entire time I've lived in the Oregon area or Portland, Beaverton area, I've worked from home. So this COVID is not new to me as far as work from home is concerned, but I travel extensively. And so that was one of the things that prevented me from joining any type of commission or committee like this. And so once COVID hit, I had no more excuses. And so I reached out to see what I could do to help out in my community. And I'm looking forward to working with you guys and learning and experiencing what we can do for our community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. A few things that I want to mention. Yes, shout out to all of you.
Paolo, you have to introduce yourself. You can't.
Oh yeah, okay. You're gonna call me out. Okay.
Busted.
What were the problems?
So it was your pronouns.
How long have you been here? What brings you
How
here?
long have you been here and what brings you here?
I think I've been with the city now for 3 years. Prior to being hired on with the city, I was one of the founding members of the Diversity Advisory Board. And so I was really involved in that work. I really championed a lot of language access work and helped start some of that, that program. And you know, after loitering around for 4 years, Alexis realized I'm not too terrible, so she hired me. And here I am now as the liaison for the Human Rights Advisory Commission, and I'm so stoked to be with you all. I will say it's a little weird sometimes because I love being on that side where I am also rallying with y'all, and also, because in my opinion, for me, these groups like this are really important because I believe that we, myself, Lieutenant Stellingwerf, Captain Wendell, and Councilor Hassan, we are public servants. We are working for Beaverton residents, and we should also be held accountable. It's really easy to get into the weeds of what we're working on. And so I love that spaces like this exist so that you can hold us accountable. Yeah, I've been here for 3 years, and I think that's everything, right? I asked y'all to say these things and I can't even say it myself.
Yeah,
cool.
Be the first.
Yes.
Yes,
The one thing I want to mention is I want to give a huge shout out to our new folks for hitting the ground running. As you all know, this is usually a space where the agenda is very light and more so food and welcome. And let's start to kind of dip our toes in what we might want to work on for the year. And that's obviously not the case at all. No. I had an additional check-in with each of them and each of y'all. And you know, some of y'all did some extra research and looked at those inquiry sessions. And so much appreciation to all of you. Councilor Hassan, we also found out, less than 12 hours ago that you were going to be our council liaison. And so we're really just hitting the ground running. We had our check-ins today.
Awesome.
So huge shout out to you all. And as we're jumping into liaison updates, I want to say I spoke to the chief today. She called me and she let me know that, okay, technically she's on vacation, but this vacation really is her using this time to move. She was even going to try to set up internet at home. She told me it's not really work. I said, Chief, it's all good. We're all human here. Do your thing. I'm going to connect with you again. But also, please, folks, if you have questions, comments, or anything to bring to the chief, I guess Captain said you could share with him, but you could also share with me as well. And I will schedule an additional check-in with the chief. She really wanted to be here, especially, you know, it's the first meeting of 2021, post all that hard work that y'all did in the last 7 months. So you will be seeing the chief, though, again in the future. With that said, I will we'll jump into liaison updates. As I mentioned, Councilor Hassan, thank you for just rolling with it and hitting the ground running with us as of a few hours ago. And welcome. And
thank you.
Yeah, and so I'll leave it up to you if there are any updates that you want to share on behalf of council.
Sure. So welcome, everyone. I just want to say, like some of you newbies, I'm also a newbie. I was given this assignment in the last 24 hours and so excited to be working with you all on this work and learning with you. I do want to acknowledge I got to review some of the documents that you've been working on and just want to recognize
what a lift you're doing. I think 2020 has been a really challenging year. I think we've all shared that. And I think the bravery with which you are addressing and confronting some of these conversations, I really appreciate it. And I am really committed to ensuring that the voices that you're bringing in this space get uplifted and continue on into our meetings at City Council. So I just want to share, thank you, and that I am here to listen and learn from you and do this work with you. From a council update perspective, as you may know, we have officially transitioned into a city manager form of government. So we've hired an interim city manager. If you're unfamiliar, for those of you who are new, last year a charter change was voted on by the voters. It included this seat that I sit in today, so more representation. It included the change to a strong, what's known as a city council manager form of government, where the mayor is not the official authority, but a city manager is hired to be the administrative head. So there's been a lot of transition work that's been happening, and our city council meetings are every Tuesday. And I don't know if I'm missing anything because we've only had one city council meeting.
No, it's up to you. I think that's great.
Okay, that's all.
Yeah, I'll just share that traditionally how this works is I send the general liaison updates to you all ahead of time, so you have a chance to read them, and then we ask the liaisons to share maybe 1 to 2 highlights from those updates, and then of course if you have any questions. But I will open it up to folks if anybody has questions for Councilor Hassan. Oh, Kathy, go ahead.
Yes. When is the council going to meet over Ellen Deloitte's recommendations?
It's a great question. I'll be really honest with you. I don't know the answer to that. I know that some of the conversations happening here are going to help inform us. And I know that it got moved to this month. So I'll make sure that Paolo and I work together to make sure that we give you more of it. Oh, so Laurel, do you have an answer?
I think I have an answer. I have part of an answer. So according to Ellen Deloitte, council is going to roll her report into discussion of our report. So there is a work session that's coming up at the end of this month that your chairs are going to be taking part of. And that is when Ellen Deloitte's work is also going to be moving forward, is my understanding. So there's like one more step in the process.
And that email arrived about an hour ago.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. All right, thank you. I'm gonna turn it either to Captain or Lieutenant if you want to share anything for police updates.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Not a lot of big updates right now. Obviously, it's business as usual. We moved in our new building. We're still working through that. As far as COVID updates, as you know, there's a vaccine that's being distributed now throughout the United States. Our department members are scheduled at some point. We don't have a firm date yet, but we are in the preparation, and probably within the next month or so, we should have our members vaccinated. So
good.
That'll be good for the public to have that, I'm sure. So again, I don't know exactly when that's going to happen, but that's something that's been in the works here for the last few days, and that's about all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned this at the beginning, but for some of the new folks, there is a new public safety center. It's on Allen and Hall? No.
Yeah, 6125 Southwest Hall Boulevard. So if you're familiar with the area, Hall and Allen.
7-Eleven.
At a 7-Eleven
right
and the laundromat. Yeah.
7-Eleven, yeah, and you have a laundromat across the way, and the Minute Mart on the other corner. So it used to be if you're familiar with Beaverton over the years, it was this is before my time. I think it was a grocery store. I don't know what chain. Then it was a library. It was a city library before the library moved, I think, in 1999 or 2002. Its current location, and then it was our PAL center up to the point where the city to build this facility.
And it was a Beaverton School District rented out part of it for a long time too.
Yeah,
It used to be the multicultural, no, sorry, the multilingual department.
In the Asian Health Center and some other stuff there. So there were a few things there, but here we are now, and so far so good. So, thank you for asking.
I have a question about where are things at, and maybe this is more for Captain, but where are things at with the hiring of the mental health person or for working with the police force or the special unit?
I think I can jump in on that. So Deputy Chief Williams is actually handling that process with Washington County. And I'm not fully up on it because we're just starting our budget preparation. But I believe from what I hear during some of the captain's meetings is that that's proceeding forward. I don't want to speak for the Deputy Chief, but I think that funding is maybe tentative or coming forward on that. So I'd have to defer to council. But we're, like I said, we're just starting the budget process, but I think that is a priority. And I think that we will have at least one member on MHRT, the Mobile Health Response Team, which would be a good step forward.
Yes. Okay. Thanks.
I'll just note that also over my check-in with Chief.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, and I'll get a follow-up from the Chief, Paolo, and maybe I can, instead of waiting for next month's meeting, kind of get that information distributed before then.
Yeah, it sounds like we both have check-ins. I'm jealous of your building. Can I come over?
You're jealous of what?
No
New
worries.
building.
Oh, I missed you. I missed it. Sorry.
I just want to play in your new building. Your windows.
Oh yeah, come on over. We'll get you. We'll get you.
City Hall is very cold.
Yeah. So real quick, which you remind me with this this conversation, as we move on and we get out of this COVID fog at some point here, which is hopefully soon. You'll still be invited for tours. We were doing tours at a very limited basis before we kind of went back into this COVID restrictive environment. So we're going to have that, and we're still working on the community academy. I know I've mentioned to some of you before, and for the new folks, the community academy is basically a class or an event over several weeks where we bring folks in that are interested in learning about the police department, what we do, why we do things, and get to meet some of the officers and some of the other things we do. So we kind of take the lid off for you and let you see what's inside the police department and how we operate, what we do. And that's still something that we're hopefully, I'm really hoping we can do it this spring. But like before, it seems like every time it looks like there's light at the end of the tunnel, we kind of move forward. But that's fine, because I'd rather have people be safe and healthy than have that. But we're going to do it. It's on the radar. And when we do that, like I said before, members from like DAB and HRAC, we're going to invite you to participate, and hopefully that'll be sooner than later. Thanks.
Cool. Definitely. The Community Academy is a wonderful program. I think I saw a hand. Was that you, Kathy?
Yeah. Is your COVID outbreak over? Are you guys all doing pretty good now?
Okay. Which COVID outbreak are you referring to?
Oh, okay. Well, I knew there was one where 7 or 8 officers came. Yeah.
I want to make sure you don't know something I don't know. No, everybody's healthy. Everybody's fine. Everybody's back to work, has been. Yeah, we haven't had any issues. So thank you for asking.
You're welcome. Hope you get vaccinated pretty quick.
Right.
Thanks.
All of us.
I have one shout out for Deb, and then I think I'm done with my liaison report unless there's any questions. I think Neil probably and the chief mentioned this last month, but we just went through an internal sergeant's promotion process, and we had one of our DAB members participate on that, which I think was the first time we've done that. And it was kind of great to have Estella on the panel. So I think we had 7 or 8 candidates put in for sergeant, and we've assembled a list for promotion for next year. So again, it was great to have that DAB participation on an internal promotion process.
Yeah, thanks. Next up, we have the Mayor's Youth Advisory. liaison update or MEAB update. So this is Annala Swafford, and she let me know prior that she won't be able to make it today. That she's taking care of a few things, but there also wasn't much to update about right now. But she will let us know. She will email me additional updates if something comes up before the February meeting. And of course, if you'll have any questions for her, you could just let me know, and I'll let her know. For the city update, some of this has already been mentioned, so I will just go over it pretty briefly. Yeah, I'm just gonna share a little bit here for some of our new councilors. So Councilor Hassan got into this a little bit, but yes, in January, we welcome new changes to Beaverton City Council, and we also have Mayor Beatty with us. It's her first term as mayor after serving the city council since 2015. Some of y'all may have also remembered seeing her. She was our council liaison, 2 years ago? I'm mixing up my years. 2 years ago, I believe it was. So yeah, before serving as elected official, she volunteered with the city's Vision Advisory Committee as well. And her vacated city council position will now be filled. And so also welcoming again, Councilor Hassan and Councilor Alison Tivnon. Joining, there are new council members filling an established seat. Councilor Hassan mentioned with the new structure. I'm going to brag about you a little bit, Councilor Hassan, because you're very humble. You didn't say this earlier, but Councilor Hassan is the first to hold City Council Position 6 and previously served on the THPRD Rec Visioning Task Force, so THPRD, Tualatin Hills Parks and Recreation, and as a board member of the Islamic Society of Greater Portland. Councilor Tivnon previously served as a Beaverton Arts Commission Chair and the State of Oregon Complete Count Committee Co-Chair. A reoccurring theme I think you might catch on to here is, I think if not most, I think all of our current councilors and mayor had previously served on the board or commission, like you are all too. Plug. We welcome back Councilor Fagin as well. For the new folks, Councilor Fagin was our recent council liaison. Well, I'm saying those words a lot, as well as Councilor Laura Mitchell and Councilor Mark Sansusi. I will share that I believe this is Councilor Fagin's last term. So if you see Councilor Fagin, go ahead and give him a little congratulations if you feel. Councilor Fagin has served on the city council since 2013 and was the founding chairperson for the city's VAC or Visioning Advisory Committee. He was selected to his third and final term in November 2020. Councilor Laura Mitchell was elected in 2018 and previously served the city's budget and social service funding committees. And then Councilor Sansusi joined the council in 2018, wow, 12 years ago, and worked on the city's planning commission and the committee for community involvement. Yeah, the mayor and councilors were all sworn in. Was this yesterday? Wow, that was a day ago. Yesterday. And as Councilor Hassan mentioned, 6:30 to 8:30 every Tuesday are the council meetings. I definitely encourage y'all to attend if you can. And then I think Councilor Hassan also mentioned a little bit the interim city manager. So the city council has appointed Kurt Wilson as the city's first interim city manager, which I met Kurt for the first time yesterday, and they really wanted to know about these inquiry sessions. They are on his radar and a top priority. So the work that y'all are doing it's really important to more than just this circle of folks, right? So their position is an important one. They will help the city transition to a council manager form of government and support hiring long-term city management. Kurt has nearly 30 years of experience with local government, holding both elected and hired positions. Most recently, he served as the city manager of the city of Stockton in California. And the recruitment for a long-term city manager is expected to begin in spring and will include opportunities for further staff and community engagement. So do stay tuned for that. Y'all might get pinged again, as y'all usually do. And for more information on the new charter, answers to frequently asked questions, and news about the upcoming activities, beavertonoregon.gov/charter, and I'll go ahead and throw it in the chat. I will just say also, as it relates to this work and my check-in with Kurt yesterday, they had a lot of experience and knowledge about law enforcement, and Kurt also, I'm finding out, is teaching classes in terms of law enforcement processes and legalities. And don't quote me on that because I didn't get the exact what the class is, but oh my goodness, I'm like, I need to investigate further. And I was talking to Councilor Fagin earlier, and we are saying he might be, they might be a good champion for continuing this work. So I'll leave it there, and I'm gonna turn it back, unless there are any more questions. Cool. I'm going to turn it back over to Laurel for the next election.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Paolo, and thanks for other liaisons. So next item on our agenda, traditionally, or as per our charter, we do elections at the first meeting of the new year. Go ahead, Joy. I think I know what you're going to say.
I make a motion to table elections until next month. We're behind. Yeah.
Yes. And I wanted to add, it feels weird coming from me because it feels like a power grab almost, but I know when I was brand new to HREC, it felt very strange to me that at my first meeting, I was tasked with participating in elections. I did end up as recorder at the end of my first meeting, and I think Joy had a very similar experience last year. So partly because it feels a little odd to newbies, but also because we have a packed agenda. So Joy has moved that we table elections until our next meeting.
Yeah.
A second from Tanya or a comment from Tanya? Okay. Paolo, yes, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to, so it looks like that's confirmed, and that's
motion is second.
No, well, we haven't actually gotten very far because I paused because I saw you had your hand up. I didn't know.
Now we have to vote.
Is there technically a discussion or a couple of questions?
We can discuss it because there's a motion on the floor.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. So we have a motion on the floor to postpone elections to our next meeting. And I want to open that up for discussion, questions, etc. on that motion.
What does that do to the recommendations? Where are the recommendations in the pipeline?
For what?
That does not alter them at all, and it allows us time this meeting to finalize them.
To finish it.
So if we do not do elections tonight, Dory, Joy, and myself will continue to serve in our current positions. And then when we do elections, we can discuss more like the process at that point for what that actually looks like. But if we don't do elections tonight, it means that we continue with the current status quo.
I firmly feel we need to focus on completing our task at hand, and that we're in good hands. We have no doubt about that, Laurel. So, please, if we need a second, I certainly would like to second it or first it or whatever.
Wherever we are.
Wherever we are. I'd like to focus on the work at hand so that we can really we can pay at the elections some real attention and make sure that the next phase of that is given its proper due diligence as well. But I think we should focus on our current objective.
Yeah, I second that.
We have a motion.
Some questions.
Yes,
Kathy, can I hear from Lisa first, and then we'll loop back to you?
Okay.
I just didn't know if we needed a motion to vote on it.
There's a motion and a second on the floor.
Okay.
So we can vote on it at any point.
So we can talk about it, and then we call the question and vote.
Okay.
Okay. Paolo sent me a copy of the recommendations last week. Have they been updated since then?
That's what
Kathy, can I have you? Yeah, can I have you hold off on that until we get to that part of the agenda tonight?
She's
so right now.
She's ahead of us. Yeah.
I'm going to offer some clarification. Kathy, can I help? Okay, so right now on the agenda is the election of the chairs. And what they're trying to do is delay that for the next meeting so that we can move to the adoption of the recommendations, which is, it sounds like what you want to talk about. But before we can move to the adoption of the recommendations, we have to vote on moving the election of the chairs till the next month so that that can be discussed. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I can't vote on that until I know the status of the recommendations and can guess how much time it will take. Because when I went over that draft, I saw I had a lot of changes that I thought needed to be made.
So this vote is simply to stop talking about the election of the chairs so that we can
So that we
start
have
talking
more
about what you
time
want
to talk about those things. Yeah. So then I'm going to go ahead and call for a show of hands from folks. So if you approve tabling elections until our next meeting, if I could see a hand in a digital or actual form or a thumb or, some indication of assent. And then if you could do your hand down, if there is anyone who objects to tabling elections until the next meeting, and if there are any abstentions. Okay, thank you. So then motion carried, nicely done. Go ahead, Paolo.
Yeah, and I just want to mention, I totally agree with you. It is so weird to vote on these at the very first day, especially for new members who don't know what's going on. And so the reason for that is because that's how it is currently written in our bylaws. But this has come up before. So yes, I actually I'm talking to Lanny and the neighborhood team on seeing if we could change that to maybe having an election happen at the very end of the year for the following year. Does that make sense? So it would happen in December after you've had a year to work together, and then in January, election's already over. So that said, I still think it would maybe be helpful in this space I could just briefly say something about chair, vice chair, and recorder so that our new members, when we come into February, have a little bit of a better idea of what those roles are, so y'all could decide if you want to nominate somebody, self-nominate yourself, or you at least have some knowledge with your vote. So with that said, I'll take a few minutes. The chairperson, so we have Laurel Grasmick Black, who is our chair this year, or 2020, and today as well. They're the ones who ultimately lead the meeting. And today I'm taking up quite a bit of space, more space than I usually do because it's that first intro meeting. But usually Laurel's running the show, and as I'll have seen, has done a wonderful job running the show.
Usually Dory's running the show, and I'm just the symbolic puppet figure.
Well, okay,
Don't
sure.
believe them. Come on, they're kind of a team.
Yeah, and then Dory, vice chair, the way in the bylaws this work usually is if the chair is not present or unable to be there, then the vice chair would assume the roles of the chair. And then we have Joy as our recorder. Joy is taking our minutes. She is recording everything that we say, and she shares them with us to later approve, and also it goes out to the public on our HRAC website. With that said, also there is usually, we work together. Usually the way this works is I have been drafting the agenda, and then I work with the three chairs to approve the agenda, make some changes, and really just, it's usually like an additional coordinating meeting outside of the regular HRAC space. I will say that with this inquiry sessions that maybe we're doing a little bit more than we have in the past, but yeah, there's like a very quick surface level snapshot of the three chair positions. And I would invite the chairs if they want to share anything or if there's any questions. Otherwise, we could go ahead and move on.
Paolo, is the city doing the classes that they did last year before COVID? I learned how to be recorder from the city recorder.
Yeah, good question. So those are things that we're currently catching up on. So for new members, usually there is a board and commissions member orientation. You may have actually just got an email from the city for that because they are rescheduling one for you all. And then there's also a recorder training. And am I missing any additional trainings, y'all? I think that's it. Usually a board and commissions orientation and new member orientation and recorder training.
And then how to run a meeting. There's a parliamentary procedure.
Right. And so the city we're a little behind. I'll just be totally transparent. We're a little behind.
That kind of year.
Yeah, it's in that kind of year. And, new city structure, there's a lot going on. So that will come and those opportunities will be available. So if folks are feeling a little bit lost in this space, that's totally okay.
I feel you.
Just to clarify, anybody can attend any of those trainings, especially the new board. Everybody who's new to any board in Beaverton is invited to attend, right? And you can also attend the recorder training if you have a huge desire to be the person who takes the minutes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
that was a good hint.
Please, somebody.
But I mean, we do always like to point out both Dory and I were recorders. So if you have aspirations to positions of power, that is the place to start.
That's right.
Cool. I'll turn it back over to y'all.
Yeah, so I just posted this in the chat, but our agenda for the next chunk of time is to finalize our recommendations. And mostly that's going to be led by Joy and Dory. And we were going to have some comments from the chief. So I'm going to turn it over to Captain Wendell for just a moment to speak to us on behalf of the chief, unless Paolo, you had some written remarks from her that she had wanted to share. Otherwise, I was going to turn it over to Captain Wendell.
It was just a frantic, I'm sorry, I can't be here.
Yeah, I was going to defer to Paolo on that, but I think that's in the midst of the move. That's all we got. I don't probably I'll be available for more questions. I don't have any specific comments from the chief tonight because she's out. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
And so for the actual review of the recommendations, Joy, I have that you're leading that. Is that all right if I turn that over to you at this point?
Sure. Can we tag team a little bit? Can you
for sure
screen share?
Yeah.
It's hard for me to, and
for
Paolo,
sure.
can you take notes?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So the first part, I was going to review 3 sections that we didn't actually get all the way to the finish of making a solid, are we sure this is the recommendation that we want? And so the first one is about school resource officers, and that portion is on page 19. Can we have 19 on the screen?
Yes. And Joy, can I share one tiny thought before you?
Sure, absolutely.
Which is, so what I wanted to emphasize is that these are the recommendations now that have gone through not only like verbal review during our meeting time, these have also gone through that Padlet process. And so what the 3 sections that Joy and Dory and I felt like needed another look by commissioners are 3 that there was never a point where we thought we wanted to make sure that we were accurately capturing the kind of the gist of what commissioners were saying around those. So those these are not, we're not trying to spring anything new on you. Right. These are, we want to make extra super sure that we're capturing the intent of those meetings.
Right.
So these have still gone through that process.
Yeah.
There isn't intended to be anything in this document that's like, by the way, that was a great 6 months of work, everybody, and we've gone ahead and thrown in a whole bunch of new stuff. It was more that like, we want to make extra super sure that we're capturing what had come out of those meetings.
Exactly.
So you said page 19.
Page 19, yeah. And so while that's going up, I'll explain for the new folks. Sorry, we were supposed to be done with this, but then that pandemic plague thing happened and we missed some time, and it was a weird year.
We're also being very, very deliberate about like really making sure that we're.
And so our process is we divided police reform issues into 6 different sections, and I'm going to go over this I believe in over communication. So we went divided into 6 sections, and then we would have an inquiry session on a topic and try to come full circle at the end of that and have recommendations by having all the voices at the table. And then last month, the teachers among us, our chair and vice chair, fabulous people they are, they introduced us to a Padlet activity, which is really a database designed for teachers that you can't break, which I love that I couldn't break that. So it's Roman numeral 5 School Resources Officer Program. It begins on the top of page 19.
Thank you, Dory.
Yes, there. Oh, it's different on yours. Okay, well, that's it. So we got a little bit behind because we got talking about all of the recommendations, and we rated them by order of importance as a board. Even the voices who finished their year last month, they had a say. And so we're just wrapping this all up. And these 3 areas, when we got together to plan this meeting, these 3 areas appeared to have the softest recommendations. We wanted to revisit and make sure that the recommendations that we're bringing to the city council, here we want you to do X, are really full-throated recommendations that we have come to. Does that make sense, new folks?
Yes. Could we be emailed a copy of that? I have an older draft.
Oh,
Okay, so
I accidentally muted you. I'm so sorry, Kathy. I was just actually responding to your message in the chat. The most recent email that I sent all of you is the most, and it has the attachment of the recommendations. Those are the most recent updates.
Okay, it's updated 12.30. Do you have that one, Kathy?
You're on mute, Kathy.
No, I don't have that. I was emailed an earlier version that looked like it wasn't quite done.
Yeah, that's when you and I had our check-in, Kathy. So, okay, I'll send it again, I guess. I'll send it again to everybody now, so you'll see it in your emails. And also, Laurel, if I could ask, I am paying attention to notes and not paying attention to hands. So if you could manage that.
Lower my hand. Okay.
Okay. Well, so because I'm sorry that you
Councilor
don't have
Hassan, sorry, I see that you also have your hand up.
Oh, I can't see anything. Okay. Is there
It's
a question?
if you it's not necessarily a question. And I apologize, I'm just hopping in. I know that the school board had a meeting with this, and I didn't know how much you knew. So just putting it out there.
Those are, yes. So the recommendations that we've put in here are actually copied directly from the letter that went to the school board with some slight tweaks, because just essentially because we wanted to amplify those same things and duplicate that work.
Thank you for reminding me of that. We discussed that in when we planned our agenda today, that because we have teachers as chair and vice chair, we get to work in concert with the school board, which is going to make it a lot more efficient to work together and speak with one voice about all of our kids. So I'm not sure there's going to be many changes because we are working with the school board and it's already been passed to that, but we're passing it through here just to, we're all together on the same page. Did that make sense, Kathy?
Yes, I was at that school board meeting.
Okay, so you're ahead of us again. She's sharp, Paolo. You picked a good one.
Well,
here.
So what are your recommendations?
So
for
let me read
SROs?
here. So the school recommendations as outlined, and I don't want to bore all of you. I'm just going to read our top line. So A, we want Black community members. Black community members have suggested engaging in an outside consultant or an agency specializing in anti-racist work. That seems like a no-brainer for me because I can't extrapolate someone else's experiences. Second, amplify the voices of Black, Brown, and Indigenous young people and families connected to the school district. Next, to partner with and compensate culturally relevant organizations. And then engage in community outreach that goes beyond the boardroom and traditional white-centered processes to gain a better understanding of what is needed to support students' well-being. This is mostly being culturally relevant. It's not really rational as a white person for me to extrapolate what's culturally relevant for you. So we want to be more inclusive. And then in following is to ensure a transparent review of the research and data about the effectiveness of SRO programs in schools. We had a lot of conversations about this and discussions, and you'll see there's some comments that were submitted by our group. So in reviewing the recommendations for SROs, is there any discussion?
I can jump in.
Okay.
This is Jared. I think these are all fantastic recommendations. I would go even further, and I'll just go on record and say that I, would probably support maybe just doing away with the SRO program completely. I think it's a well-intentioned program that often has a lot of detrimental effects. I will say though that I'm not a teacher in Beaverton, so I would defer to the Beaverton teachers on our board to hear if they think that it is a useful program and what it provides. But in research that I've done and in what I've heard, that's kind of just what my thought is there.
Jared, I wanted to thank you for putting that in your comments, because on the Padlet, I don't know if you were able to see that we pulled comments from the Padlet and put them into the finalized document. A lot of what we as chairs have struggled with is how do we capture the range of recommendations here, and I will say that that has been a very similar struggle from the kind of teacher side of this as well. And in that discussion of like those recommendations go into a little bit more depth. There has been a petition to remove SROs from Beaverton schools, and that gets mentioned in there. So I'm glad that you brought that. And I think that where where teachers have come out on it is, let's push for this review. And I'm really glad that within that you're pushing for the more of like an abolitionist perspective. So I wanted to thank you for including that, and I hope that we captured that in the way this is structured. So thank you.
Sure. And yeah, certainly. And I'm not an expert in, the Beaverton school district. So yeah, if that's what, the board wants and what teachers want, I think that's great. But yeah, definitely, I think at a minimum, a more robust review of what's working and inclusion of minority voices would be what I would support.
Spencer, I see your hand, and then Kathy will loop back to you.
Okay.
I think you're muted right now, Spencer.
Sorry. This is not something I have a personal stake in. I don't have kids in the schools or kids who have actually gone through the schools. But it feels like abolishing the program would be antithetical to the rest of our recommendations, which are all about increasing communications between BPD and various elements of the community. And it feels short-sighted to abolish a program like this. If it can be improved, improve it, rebuild, tear it down, rebuild it, and make it so that it's more effective. But that's my thought.
Well, I think that is
Yeah,
why the recommendations are to study. Let's get this studied.
Yeah.
And see, we got to measure before we cut or measure before we change. Because
I appreciate both of you though with that, and that's exactly it, Joy, is that there is, and I'm glad that we're getting to acknowledge that there just is a little bit of that. This is exactly why we wanted to bring these ones to the group, because this is where we were seeing that kind of, it didn't, so the sense that I got,
it wasn't clean. It wasn't,
from like a weather vane perspective, it wasn't clear to me, like some of the wind is blowing this way and some of the wind is blowing this way, and we wanted to make sure we were able to capture that in this document.
Exactly.
So yeah,
let's
thanks for
measure the
adding
wind.
that, Spencer.
Yeah.
And then Kathy, I see your hand up, and then I have to change my screen size because I can't see anybody else.
Yeah. I'm assuming that most of you were at the city council meeting where the students testified, which was extremely moving. And I would encourage you to listen to that if you weren't. But at the school board meeting, there was indeed a bit of research, and it was admitted to be very, very flawed. It was a questionnaire that had gone out mostly to white parents.
Mm-hmm.
And research was talked about, the effectiveness of the SROs, and I have been told that the police force here is very well funded and that they could respond very quickly to problems at a school from the neighborhood. Is that right, Paul? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, we had this. Yeah, we talked about that the week that we had discussed this topic. We did talk about this. Yeah.
Okay. I guess I just feel like the voices of the BIPOC kids and parents get dismissed on this topic. And
which is why our first recommendation is to listen to the Black voices and the voices of color. That's our first recommendation. So we are together on this.
Yeah, but by dismissed, I mean they've spoken and were not responded to, almost not responded to in an active listening way.
No, we made it our top recommendation, Kathy.
And so sorry, I'm going to pause this discussion. I'm going to put on my moderator hat for a second. So Kathy, thanks for sharing those thoughts. It sounds like I'm not hearing a concrete recommended change to our recommendations. So I'm going to have you pause. We've also heard from you quite a bit today.
Yes.
So if I could have you pause for a little bit so that we can bring some other voices into the space. Lisa, I see that you've had your hand up for a bit. So let's go to Lisa.
I just want to clarify, so these comments will go with the official recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I would propose that we would just change it to say, ensure a transparent review, blah, 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 in order to consider abolition of the program and the positive and negative impacts.
Can you say that one more time, please, for the note?
So ensure a transparent review of the research and data about the effectiveness of SRO programs in schools to better evaluate the positive and negative impacts of abolition of SRO programs.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You're good.
Aren't these new members awesome?
Wow. Yeah.
And then, thank you for that, Lisa. Yes, and so that's a big part of what we want to capture tonight, is if our new folks want to make sure that there's some commentary added to this. So our intention is not to create a document that is just a dry list of recommendations. We really did, and Dory, you can speak to this a lot better than I can, but it was really our intention to capture some of this heart and discussion behind it and the humanistic side of it. And Paolo, so you said here that you had Cameron on deck as well. So let's hear from Cameron.
Yep.
And then we'll loop back to Councilor Hassan.
Well, so I'll mostly echo what Jared said, although I'm going to take a more absolutist position. I think you all know my position, armed, like people with guns and body armor do not belong in schools, and the police make almost any situation more dangerous, and their training is to use force and control in any given situation. That does not belong around children, doesn't belong around any of us, but it doesn't belong around children particularly. And I've used the expression before, you can't paint a fence a different color and make it a whole new fence.
So we're not going to paint the roses red?
Yeah, so
Cameron,
if we're going to study, sure, but you know very well I'm advocating for, you don't need to study to tell us what we already know.
So Paolo, did you catch everything that Cameron just said?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not writing right now. So I'm hoping you caught it all.
I didn't catch the fence one, but I didn't write that down, but I got you.
Yeah, we're trying to do verbatim notes. So folks, just to give a little bit of background, the idea is the recommendation is there, and then the comments are to help as a city council, and Chief Groshong and her staff go through to support them so that they're getting the full breadth of information and discussion, not just a recommendation. So that's why it was really important for you all to lend your voices to the Padlet when we did it, or of course now as Joy is moderating. So thanks, Joy.
You bet. My personal opinion is that guns and kids are always a bad mix.
Paolo, make sure you capture that. That's a good one. Ooh, somebody just turned off the light in my room.
What was
Councilor, sorry. So Joy said children and guns are never a good
Are
mix.
always a bad mix. That's
gotcha.
And then let's hear from Councilor Hassan. Oh, you're muted.
muted.
Sorry.
Does Lisa need to go? I don't want to take from another person. Okay. I was reflecting on what Kathy was saying, because I've also heard some of those comments. So I wonder if it's like amplify and listen to the voices, or have a commitment to hearing, because what I was hearing is Kathy's like, but we've been speaking, and then we're like, we'll hear our recommendations. So maybe something around actually actively listening in addition to amplifying. Just a thought.
Yeah, sorry, I'm looking at the wording of these recommendations now to see how that's
Like
phrased in there.
Like be, amplify, and listen to, maybe as a thought, thinking of what Kathy was sharing, because I have heard some of those meetings as well, and I feel like maybe that's what she was trying to say.
I'm looking at like point. Yes, so I agree with you, and I'm looking to make sure that we're not repeating ourselves, because there is something in here saying that this should be one of many tools to actively empower our young people and community voices.
Yeah, we could put it in all caps. Listen to what the kids are saying. That would not be word. No.
So amplify the voices of Black, Brown, and Indigenous young people and families connected to the school district. And then there's sort of a sub-component of that says that the decision makers should be transparent about how the input from these groups will be used to inform decisions around the SRO program in schools. So there is some mention here of like these groups should be part of the decision-making process. But I agree that making a recommendation to amplify those voices is a non-binding recommendation. But yes, so I like the idea of including. So Paolo, did you capture that, including like the importance of genuinely listening to those voices?
In addition to amplifying student experience with the SRO program.
And I'm gonna put my moderator hat back on from a time constraint. Joy, are you okay if we move on to the next chunk of recommendations?
As long as everyone got heard. The next chunk is community engagement. And that starts on the top of page 16. And do we need it screen shared, or is it okay if I share the first line and we can talk? Is that better?
Let's do both, and I will copy and paste.
Okay. All right, that's a great idea. You want to paste in the chat?
Joy, tell me again, what like number am I looking for? You said
This is
September 6th.
Roman numeral 4, connecting with community members.
Okay, thank you. All right, I will frantically paste in the chat.
Okay, so I will
Page 16.
quickly review what that says. It says, create a system for police officer liaison to support the neighborhood association committees. These officers intentionally cultivate strong relationships with residents of the city's various neighborhoods, utilizing neighborhood-based officers to respond to non-emergent calls. That's A. B, BPD's outreach team should implement multiple strategies to proactively connect with community members and invite authentic feedback. Examples include adopt a cop. C, connect with local community-based and identity-based organizations to find areas for collaboration. D, ensure that community outreach is only conducted in a way that prioritizes learning and relationship building, not for collecting intelligence reports. And we had a specialist come in and speak to us about this. It was awesome. Michael German is brilliant. And E is create ways to connect with students from public, private, and parochial schools beyond the cadet and SRO programs. Discussion?
So we got Lisa.
I think to highlight some things for folks, maybe.
Sure, let's go back to A, which is create a system for police officer liaisons to support a neighborhood committee.
So the question became on A after looking at all the commentary from everyone. It seems as though that was not a productive recommendation. So the question is, do we want to strike it? Do we want to strike that from the recommendation? So that would be the discussion maybe to have on A.
Anyone want to not strike it? I think that's easier. Anyone want to keep this one?
I think it's common sense.
So we're going to take A out.
It's just common sense.
A out. Okay. The next one, B, the police department's outreach should include multiple strategies to proactively connect with community members and invite authentic feedback. Examples include adopt a cop and empathy interviews, and creating a virtual platform for sharing stories and experiences. We had a police officer share that someone had a bad, was it you, Mercy, where didn't you talk to someone and they got something that they didn't understand before after chatting with you after the meeting?
No, I don't remember, but
it was a while ago. It was really awesome to just see the officer's attitude shift because he saw the interaction in a different way. More of that.
Can I interject here so we can hear from Lisa too?
Yeah.
So I just think a lot, like all of these recommendations are, things that are going to cost the BPD money, and I'd prefer to channel that funding to more productive avenues like social work and mental health resources, and having people who are not armed in the community, people who are not, potentially involved in the legal system, especially for the immigrant community. That can be really terrifying to have those people around in their community, and just shifting the money away from educational programs for cops that I don't feel like are very productive towards community services. So just generally, that's a really big priority of mine. And I think that this document, like on reviewing it in totality, and especially this section, fails to really loudly say.
Not speaking to you.
What were those resources you recommend funding goes to, Lisa? I just want to make sure I
So,
listed.
for example, social services like social workers, mental health providers. I think that was one of Kathy's big concerns in her letter, which I tried to briefly read before coming to this discussion to prioritize her voice as a community member who's here today. And then also, for example, in the immigrant community, they're really scared to have law enforcement officers. Sometimes my patients, I don't hear from them, and they have severe illnesses, and I don't hear from them for days, and I get worried. And what we have to do is what's called a safety check, and we send police officers to their house. And most of my patients are undocumented, and that can lead to like severe anxiety and threat to their safety. And so having resources outside of that, where we can have them checked on by a community member that's not a legal authority with a gun, would be something I'd rather prioritize than trying to educate and integrate more police with more guns into our community that fears them and is targeted by them.
Thank you, Lisa. We also added, after our last meeting, we did add a bullet point because we kept talking around, in my opinion, we kept talking around that question of funding, right?
And abolition.
And yeah, and so I'm really, really glad to have more of that added to this, because I think that we have like a bullet point of fund other things, and I want that. I like that adding that other places allows that to more deeply infuse this document. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And I just propose like
letter, right?
defunding as much as possible of armed police forces and increasing funding as much as possible for mental health, social work, social services, housing, and all of the things that cause crime in our community.
I love it.
So that's go with.
Okay.
What time is it?
All right. And so, all right, our next bullet point on the list is to connect with local community-based and identity-based organizations to find areas for collaboration. I know we discussed culturally relevant things, like where police were coming in and they were behaving in one way when that would be offensive to someone from a different culture. We had that conversation.
Sorry, now I'm frantically scrolling between several. Go ahead, Mercy. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just I'm listening to these recommendations. Sometimes I go over the recommendations and I don't know what to say in the recommendation just because I feel like police is going to be police. And when I go to most of the policy, it's about protecting police. And we can recommend all of these. And I don't know if that is strong enough to change police and what they do, you know? So I don't really put any comment to these things because we all, no matter what position we hold in life, we have to be human first. So which means we have to consider the fact that we are all human. So most of these things, like, to me, it's common sense. If we were treating each other with dignity and respect and like everyone really truly had the human right, we wouldn't really be here. But it's just like I always say, it's just going to really change something because the police people are always there to protect themselves. So no matter what you do, are we really going to change this policy that has been around forever? And that's where I sit here today, and I just want to go home and email you guys that I don't want to be on this thing again because I just feel like we're not going to go anywhere because this has been done over and over and over and again, you know? And
painting the roses red.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, but this is just how I feel about the whole thing because it's just common sense that we should treat each other with respect. And all this time that we are putting in this whole material should have been put into other places. There are homeless people that we could just have full packages and carry food to them as a group. I'm sorry, I just want to change the whole topic because it just, and if you don't see me here next month, it's just because I'm tired listening to the same thing. Because this recommendation, they're just recommendation. I just feel we are wasting our time.
Thank you so much for saying that, Mercy. One discussion point that's come up a lot is that, trying to say a really short version of this, is
we did talk about this for a while, didn't we?
that we spent a big chunk of time on this, and there's simultaneously the feeling of, and we could spend another 20 years talking about this, and what will that do and achieve? So like both the sense of like, we've spent so much time on this and what do we have to show for it, and yet we could talk about this forever. And I really, I want to say, Mercy, I feel like I say this every meeting, but I really appreciate that you give your time to this and how often you have really held our feet to the fire a little bit and reminded us of that this is not, for some of us, this like can be theoretical and it shouldn't be. And I really thank you for that. And thank you for continuing to bring us back to that like this is very, very real and this is urgent. And I really appreciate that.
Thank you. I just want to add one more thing, because when you're reading all the recommendation, you start with treat Black people, let Black people voices be heard. That alone hurt, you know. Why should just Black people be separated all the time? Why should we beg people to treat each other with humanity, you know? And the beginning of all those recommendations, they hurt me. And if I leave this board today, it's just because that's why. You are putting us in the position that people are going to hate us more and more. And when you look at the Capitol building today, people feel that they are losing their power to Black people. They are losing their power to those low people. They are losing their power to those people who should not be ruling them. And that's what we see in the Capitol today. And as strong as I feel that I need to be respected and everybody needs to be respected, all these recommendations, the way they start, I know we feel like it's all about them. What's about us, you know? It's going to be helping us, but it's going to be hurting us too. Yeah, I know this is not where you want to go.
No,
but that's how I feel about the whole thing right now.
Good.
Okay, you want to protect us, but also you are hurting us. If you're a white kid reading this whole recommendation, you will say, oh, it's just all about Black people. What's about us? They're going to start hating us more and more, you know? So I wish we could be doing something. We could be starting the recommendation in a way that let's treat all human, let's remember human rights in everything that we do. Instead of saying, let's treat Black and white and Hispanic and low, you know, it's just, we ourselves are segregating us. Even here, when we use those words, you know, let Black voice be heard. What should you, I be telling you, let Black voice be heard. Don't you know that we are all human beings, that we all have human rights? No one needs to tell somebody. I'm sorry. I'm wasting my time here.
No, you're not. We need to hear you.
Because it's just recommendation. It's not going to change anybody's mind. When you recommend something, you're not telling someone do this. You recommending it. They have the right to do it or not. And when you read the policy in the police recommendations, it's all about protecting them. It's not anything to say when the citizens feel that they are not safe. This is what you should do. It's all about police. When you don't feel safe, you should do this. Even when the person is running away from you and you don't feel safe, do this. Until those mean policies are touched, these recommendations are not going to go nowhere. Because even on this crib, in this group, we are segregating ourselves. Just by saying, let Black and brown be heard. We should have been heard in the first place a long time ago. Because we are human beings. And the Constitution says we all have human rights. So let us be mindful how we even trying to make these recommendations here. Because it hurt me listening to all of you. I think we need to start rephrasing our own words.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mercy.
Thank you. And I'm sorry to take all your time, but I'm just tired sitting here and listening to us segregating ourselves. And then we want to go recommend it to somebody and we accept them to accept it? How? Why should you tell someone that Black and brown people be heard? No, let all human be heard because we all have human rights. Let's say it that way. What are you, black or brown?
Very good, Mercy. Thank you very much.
Thank
I believe
you so
Jared
much.
was
Yeah.
next.
I stop now. Sorry.
That's all right. So we're gonna go Jared, Kathy, Stephanie, Councilor Hassan, and then Cameron.
No, that's okay. I forget what I was gonna say, and I want to say, Mercy, thank you for that. I think that's something that we probably all need to hear. And I mean, I always think of that quote. You know, what is the quote? The arc of history is long, but it bends toward justice. Yeah, and I know that might sound like a platitude in this moment when we're all doing this hard work and having these hard conversations, but I hope that by having these conversations that we're moving in that direction, as hard as it is. I forget what I was going to say, actually, so you can move on to the next person.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. Let's hear from Kathy and then Stephanie and then Councilor Hassan.
Okay. I already appreciated some of Lisa's recommendations because they were very specific and more pointed than some in this document. And I think we can learn from Mercy. First of all, we need strong recommendations. Yes, abolish SRO. And the city council can do with it what they want. Yes, give some of the police budget or give the whole SRO budget to counselors and mental health workers, and have Mercy be on the writing committee so that she can help scrutinize every single recommendation, because they are affecting all of us, and to for them to make one among us or any among us feel like we're being singled out to be treated as less than is not what we intend to do, but we white folks don't know how to do it any other way. And so we really need Mercy to be not leaving us, but we need to really, really let her take the lead in some of these things and keep teaching us. That's all.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. And yes, I appreciate Mercy so much, more than you know, Mercy. And then was it Councilor Fagin or Councilor Hassan next? Did I get that right?
I had Stephanie up next,
okay,
and
Stephanie,
then Councilor
and then,
Hassan,
okay.
and then Dory.
Thank you. And I also want to thank Mercy. I think one of the greatest things, Mercy, that you bring to this commission is that you bring this truth, this raw, unsanitized truth. And a lot of times when we talk about these subjects, we do so in a very procedural and sanitized manner, which is the language of our current government and our society. And I appreciate greatly what you say and the raw and truthful nature of it. I want to disagree with you on one point, and that is the change that you affect. I can only speak for myself at this moment, but Mercy, your comments and the perspective and the passion that you have brought has altered not only what I choose to vote for and what I choose to do, but it has changed my own activism within the community. And I also remember you speaking as passionately at the Juneteenth rally that we had in Beaverton. And I can't help but believe that that also impacted our entire community when you spoke. So I will disagree with you on the point that your participation is somehow ineffective or that it would not be continuing to better all of us. We're figuring out some real points, and one of the points I'm not sure if we're discussing not continuing education for the police versus channeling those funds into direction of social services. And I want to state that I don't see it as an either or. I think that that those are parallel simultaneous paths that we must work on together. That I think that we can find enough money to actually do both. If we're really valuing this in our community, I believe that we can find the funds to educate and inform our police force. And we have this amazing advocate in Chief Groshong, who has come to the table and really chosen to do the work with us and has honored our perspectives and has adopted some measures that truly do take action. The 8 Cant Wait, and then a near mirror of that with the Beaverton Police Force. I think that there are changes that are happening. It is never fast enough. It could never be fast enough, any more than Black Lives Matter is a sensible thing to even say. Of course, Black Lives Matter. Of course, Black Lives Matter. And the fact that we have to say this, the fact that we must continue to support this idea tells you how far behind we are. So Mercy, thank you again for your passion. I hear so poignantly what you're saying, and to Jared's point, that's all I can do to not fall into complete despair, is to believe that the arc of justice is bending in our favor and in the right direction. So thanks for letting me comment. And again, I hope we can have a little bit more clarification. Are we suggesting that we not fund, our recommendation would be that we not fund police programs for educating and promoting opportunities for the police department to educate themselves, or and funding all of that money to social services? Or is there a possibility that we can recommend that both of those things continue?
I can answer that, Stephanie. Earlier in our recommendations, much higher up, we recommend funding mental health services and directing funds to there.
Right, that's what I was seeing.
Yeah,
and so
and this is
I
the
just
very
wasn't sure if our
end.
debate was to take out one or the other.
And we could say that, this is within established and already budgeted funding, because I think personally, we have the police here. How grateful I am that they have been here since before we started this, and they've stayed and increased, and they're listening. And it's not enough, Mercy, I'm sorry, it's not enough, but it's something, and I want to work with it. I want to work with folks willing to work with us. I'll work with anybody willing to work with me.
I want to hop in and amplify Paolo pointing out that we now have 5 minutes left in this meeting time. But here's what I want to point out. You hear this from me all the time. I would rather go slower and get it right than rush through this in 5 minutes. However, I also recognize, and I think Mercy, you did a really good job of calling us out on that is extending this into another meeting, is that a worthy use of our time? So that is a question essentially that I don't want to ask us to answer immediately in the next 30 seconds, but I want our folks to ponder, right, in the 4 minutes that we have left in this meeting. I want you to ponder, do you want to extend this conversation into another meeting? I'm going to jump the order a little bit, and I want to go to Dory. And then Dory, I'm going to have you decide where we want to go next.
So a couple of things are coming up for me. So one is my response as a Black female who is of African heritage, who was born in the United States, who is a heritage African American. And I might offer a different perspective. So Mercy, our perspectives may not be the same based on our identities and our experiences. And I want to offer that perspective, and it'll be quick, but first I want to ask this of everybody. Is everybody prepared to stay at least another 15 minutes so we can, there's never full closure when you're talking about these kinds of issues, but I do want to give us 15 minutes so that we can have a good wrap up. So if you could just raise your hand and wave at me if you can stay for the extra 15. I appreciate it. Spencer, you can't. Oh, understand. Okay. So I want to offer this perspective. The reason we talk about race in particular in these recommendations is because Black people are more impacted by police violence and encounters than other people. And to call that out is very important, because when we start to talk about everybody, we don't bring that conversation about racism into this piece, right? Into this conversation that there is institutional and systemic racism at play here, and that I can guarantee you that other white moms, when I was raising my boys, didn't check their phone every morning to make sure that their sons were still alive.
I never did. I never worried when I got pulled over that I would die. I never had to worry that my child could answer the door without getting blown away. So we don't need to talk about white people. Time's up.
So that aspect of the racism that exists in our country is the basis and foundation for the recommendations that the police department needs to hear, and that I believe the city council needs to hear, Councilor Hassan. So I would say if we could go another 15 minutes and get through this discussion, and I'm going to say this to you all, we're not going for perfection here, we're going for good enough. What we're trying to create is a piece that begins a conversation for the Beaverton Police Department and for the City Council around how they are interacting with people of color in this community. And I won't say what I was going to say at the end, but I have this whole thing prepared for you all about curb cuts. So I'm just going to throw it out there now. So back in the 1970s in Berkeley, there was a group of activists who were they sat in wheelchairs, and there was no way for them to get around the city. So what they did, they took it upon themselves to pour concrete and make what we would now call curb cuts. They were innovators. They did what they needed to do, yet they were people who took it into their own hands. We need the city of Beaverton, the Beaverton PD, the city councilors to have that same innovative thought. Sorry, that's me. That same kind of innovative thought. What can we do to serve people of color better through our community safety services? And when we do that, then everybody will be served mercy. Because we know now that curb cuts, they're not just used by people who use wheelchairs. They're used by people who use strollers. They're used by skateboarders. They benefit all kinds of other people. So it's the same thing. When you look at policing and you transform it to be community safety, that's going to make the change, Mercy. And it's not going to be fast. It's like turning a ship. I'm going to say that.
Mile and a half.
But it has to be transformative and not just change, because you can change your shirt, you can change your pants, you can change your president. We see that, right?
We can paint the roses red. They're going to be white still.
Transform it. We want to make it something different. So this is going to take the courage of Paul, the courage of Lieutenant Stellingwerf, the courage of Councilor Hassan to stand up and be uncomfortable and make change.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry. That was my little bit that I felt like I needed to say. So
Dory,
I'm going to put down
Isn't she awesome? Can we keep her?
Dory, Dory, do you mind if I amplify something that you said in our chair meeting? we had a really profound discussion. We have talked, the four of us, Joy and Dory and I and Paolo, have also talked a lot about these recommendations. And one of the really profound things that Dory said in a recent discussion that I keep holding in my brain is that when we write these recommendations, the doing the work needs to be on decision makers now. We are a bunch of volunteers. We're not getting paid for this time. And it's not actually my job to fix the police. It's just not. It's not Mercy's job to fix the police. I would love it if the city of Beaverton would like to pay Mercy and Dory to come fix the police. That would be awesome.
That would be
but
perfect.
it's not their job, right? And so Dory really captured this in our discussion leading into this meeting of like, actually, we might be doing too much work to try to make these recommendations really airtight and flawless and like writing an action plan. And maybe that doesn't need to be what we do, right? Maybe what we need to be doing is saying, hey, this is a problem and you need to pay attention to it. And so I really wanted, I just wanted to kind of bring that into this space because that's been in my head from that smaller space meeting that we've been having. And that's really helped guide me in wanting to make these recommendations perfect and having to realize like, oh, that's actually not the goal here. So thanks for letting me bounce off of what you just said, Dory. So I want to make sure, okay, so Councilor Hassan, you were saying that you were gonna share your thoughts in the chat. I want to put my moderator hat back on a little bit and kind of move us toward like, let's hit some resolution with this. One thing that I would like to offer people the opportunity to do right now is if there is, we had a section in our meeting tonight to ask people to share. I would like you to share a final thought that you want to share with Beaverton Police and city leadership. I want to reframe that a little bit, and I still want to hear your final thoughts. I don't know that we will get to all of them. What I would instead like to ask from you, you've had an opportunity to look through these recommendations, keeping in mind that concept of the actual work needs to be done by other people. What do you feel is missing? And if you are able to type that into the chat, we are capturing that right now. And we're actually like, that's what we're trying to do here is capture what are these final words that people want to make sure aren't lost. So if there's something that you are really passionately like, I don't want this to get lost, please can you include that in the chat so that we can make sure that it becomes part of this finalized document. So we had one other big section of these recommendations that we felt like hadn't gotten actually, I'm just going to speak from my perspective that I didn't feel like I had any clarity on what it was that we as a board wanted to recommend. And that was the 8 Cant Wait section. So I'm just going to like say that from my perspective. I felt like we had talked about 8 Cant Wait a lot, and it was not clear to me where people had come down on that. So that was the one section that was left of this that I wanted to make sure that we called your attention to during the meeting tonight to say like, hey, we have it. So we have a section in this document. I have too many things open. Classic. I think this is under our policy point. So this is policy B.
Yeah, page 12.
I'm gonna paste.
Before we do that, can we stick on what we were doing so I can make the comment on that one before jumping to something else? Okay.
Yes, let's wrap that up. Thanks, Cameron.
Yeah. So the problem with literally all of these recommendations is they involve talking to the police. There is no situation in which a person talking to the police is safe. Like, I mean, even my restraining order clients, I remind, like the people who get restraining orders, I remind them that, yes, you should call the police, but remember, there is danger in doing so. There is danger involved for everyone. Literally, that is the problem I have with all of these recommendations right here. Interacting with the community, outreach, try to adopt a cop. Any interaction with the police is an inherently dangerous activity for any civilian. Because the very function of the police is to exercise force and control in defense of the status quo, and to do so by gathering intelligence, which ultimately leads to the prosecution of crimes. You basically can't go through your day without committing a crime, by the way. You did a crime today. I'm going to just tell you that. You probably did at least 3 federal felonies today. And so that just by its very nature makes any interaction with the police dangerous. And so that is the problem I feel with so many of these recommendations under number 4 here, that we are expecting people to put themselves in a dangerous situation like that. And by recommending that and supporting that, I feel it sends a bad message to the entire community.
So Cameron, what I hear you saying is that you would strike A, you would strike B under section 4. I don't know if you would strike C because that's connecting with community organizations, and probably E. Is that correct? Is that what you would strike? Just get rid of them, because
in my ideal world, yes, but I know that there's no possibility of it.
So Cameron, can you make a motion?
Make a motion.
Okay. I motion to strike A, B, C, D, and E.
Cool.
I second that motion.
Perfect. All in favor?
I was looking at notes, not the screen, and who raised their hand. That quorum, is that official?
Yeah, everybody. Yeah.
Okay.
All opposed?
1, 2.
Anybody opposed?
See, Stephanie's got her hand up.
Any abstentions? Very cool.
So Paolo, we had 1 opposed and 2 abstentions.
Kathy needs to unmute herself.
So I'm gonna keep us moving, and as folks have, as you want to add commentary, if you can use that virtual raise hand feature. I'm now trying to keep us to our new revised timeline. So we had included this last point of discussion, which was immediately adopt research-based. Essentially, do we make a recommendation to adopt 8 Cant Wait? And it was not clear to me from the Padlet activity or from our discussions where folks were at with that. Like, are we recommending 8 Cant Wait? Are we not? And so I wanted to essentially, I guess that was my question.
I would like to move to adopt 8 Cant Wait.
There we go. Thank you. I'm like, how am I actually supposed to phrase this? Okay, so Joy has moved that we formally have a recommendation to immediately adopt 8 Cant Wait.
I will second, but I also think that that is as the preliminary immediate first
Yes,
step.
it's the first baby step. It's not enough, but it's something.
Paolo, can you make sure to capture that, because that was something that was really close to my heart as well, that 8 Cant Wait be an immediate, like a temporary,
an
like,
immediate
let's
minimum.
do this right now.
Yeah,
yes. What is, it's not called 8 might be a good idea.
No, 8 Cant Wait, and it's a beginning. It's the first 8.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Oh my God, I just moved around the screen.
Spencer.
Any abstentions? Oh, Spencer says he's not opposed.
Oh, okay. I'm just late. Seeing.
Any abstentions? Okay, thank you.
I just put here, motion to adopt a Cant Wait is an immediate first step with an intention of further discussion and study.
Further steps, further action. How about further action?
to
I'm
be
tired of
adopted.
discussion and study. I want
Yeah,
action.
no, we're done.
Um,
Is it too much to, make a recommendation to just remove SROs? Is that too much on our first year together?
No, not too
Motion
much.
to make a recommendation to remove SROs.
I'll make that motion to remove SROs.
Second for me.
Goes back to the first section, right? Yep.
That study it. We're done.
so
They don't stop school shootings.
all in favor of making a recommendation to remove SROs from schools?
Can y'all tell me if that passed or not? I'm just looking at the notes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
9.
7, 8, 4.
And I saw 10 at one point, so I'm like clearly miscounting.
I could just put that it passed with quorum, and then mention if there's any.
Are there any objections? Any opposed? Okay, Kathy is opposed. Any then Stephanie is opposed. Any abstentions?
I want to get rid of SROs.
Oh,
okay. So sorry, I counted your hand in the wrong spot. Okay. So I saw one hand for objection. Any abstentions? Okay. Motion carried. I would like to ask at this point, I would like to propose that we be done with these recommendations. So the next, go ahead, Dory. Oh, Dory, I think, yeah, there you go.
I'm off. Just one question that I had for you all, because I noticed the amount of non-support that this one had. So when we're talking about under the hiring and training section, which is section 1, this idea about, I'm sorry, oh, not C, D. I wanted to make sure that everybody had a chance to look at D on page 7, and that we were all still in agreement on that, and E on page.
And then I'll post those into the chat in just a sec.
Thank you.
So we got D and E from that first section. So D is increase the effectiveness of training on de-escalation and mental health intervention. It's very tempting at this moment to say permission to speak freely, but I know that that's not a real thing in this context. I think that we have seen today that many police officers do know how to de-escalate and choose not to
and take
in
pictures
certain
with
circumstances,
terrorists.
but do choose to in other circumstances. So thank you, Dory, for bringing this one back into the discussion realm. Sorry, I'm going to go back to frantically pacing, so I'm not going to see people for a second. So Dory, I'm going to ask you to step in and call on people.
Okay. Let's see. Did anybody have any comments on this on D and E?
Yeah, I think that we need to say it more clearly on E that police officers shouldn't be white supremacists. How about that? No more Nazis. Like my ex-husband.
So
none of that.
I just want to make sure that we're talking about the same thing. So E is really talking about officers having a basis of training around white
racialized theories about the white supremacy in Oregon.
The whiteness of Oregon, right? So that they can effectively do their jobs when they are working with people who are not white.
Yeah.
Because race does matter in the United States, because racism.
Unfortunately.
Lisa, you had to.
I think it's more important to just not hire people who demonstrate a history of lack of training in these issues. So I think that training them is not effective, and I think that we should prioritize not hiring police who don't have expertise in implicit bias and race issues in the state that they're applying, which is Oregon.
So like, to throw this out for you, that would say that nobody can grow and change. So you're saying nobody is capable of growing and changing from their bias?
I think that
never met a Nazi
more
that
than
did.
I feel really strongly that educational knowledge alone does not alter behavior. It's been demonstrated a million times. It's something I feel really strongly. And I don't think knowledge is going to help. But other people can disagree for sure.
Other thoughts on that one, Brittany?
I would disagree that education alone doesn't help. As somebody who had no idea about Oregon's racist history until a few years ago when I started getting involved, that really did change things for me. It was something that I wasn't aware of, and becoming aware of it through education was a really important turning point for myself being a social activist. So I think it's not enough, but I do think that it is important to have.
Kathy, thank you, Brittany.
And then wait, hang on. I saw Spencer's hand a while ago. I think we might have skipped him.
I miss Spencer. So Kathy, please wait till after Spencer speaks. Thank you.
Spencer's mute.
I had a question. Are we going to ever talk about Section 3? Transparency.
Sorry, I'll answer that briefly. So the sections that we specifically wanted to call attention to tonight were ones that we as chairs felt like we hadn't gotten a clear sense from the Padlet activity of where people were on those different on those specific sections.
Okay.
My kid's in bed, so I can stay up. If you want to bring more discussion in, I'm okay with that, but I would put that to the, yeah.
I had the sense that we were only talking about things we were going to include. So I was imagining that we were going to not include Section 3 at all.
No, so tonight we really just wanted, there were a couple of areas that we felt like we hadn't gotten a strong enough sense of where the kind of like, we felt like we hadn't gotten enough feedback to feel like we were really capturing everything that the group had to say. And so we wanted to solicit some more discussion on those. That doesn't preclude us from adding more to this discussion. Where we were going to go with this next would be the proposal for this document would be like taking this document and saying like, okay, these are our finalized recommendations.
With the additions of the motions that y'all had.
With the additions of the motions from tonight and the additional commentary that people are adding tonight. So if there's more commentary that you want to add, I want you to add it. That was a long way to answer that.
Only that under Roman 3, it feels to me that the largest and most impactful step that we can take is advocating for and seeing formed a citizen review board. I think that's absolutely critical. And without doing that, I don't think we get very far. So if we want oversight, citizen oversight, that should be our first recommendation. That's my feel.
So you're really amplifying this one from, so this is section 3. I've already forgotten, maybe E. Yeah, thank you. So you're saying you want to really like amplify and emphasize that one of creating that citizen board.
Yeah,
I feel strongly about that too. Thank you, Spencer.
And in answer to concerns about talking to the police, this doesn't have anything to do with talking to the police. It doesn't involve them, or it shouldn't. I don't think it should involve them at all. It's citizen oversight.
And so I want to call out what Stubby's pointing out in the chat here too, that both section D and E don't have any kind of accountability language built into them. And so I think that is that's kind of the question that we kept running around in circles as chairs of like,
We did.
yeah, of like, how do we have that accountability piece? So
Wow,
Stubby,
this
do you want
sounds
to add?
familiar. Yeah, here we are some more.
Stubby, do you want to add to that at all? I'd love to hear more on that.
I just
And then
wanted to
let's
throw
loop
that
back
in
to
there
Dora.
because, yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there because I completely hear where Lisa is coming from in a sense of frustration of like, we could train all day and educate all day. I definitely don't want to spend more money out of the budget doing that, but it can be done. But if you hire officers who, frankly, are determined to block themselves off from that kind of growth, then you're not getting anywhere. But I get what Brittany's saying. Like, there's, you also don't want to put up by your face. So I think that we just need to add some accountability language, and I like the oversight that Spencer added, and both those sections are lacking that. So that's what I just want to put it in there.
We totally need that. We need citizen oversight.
Let's
Like
go
a
back
police
to
commission. Yeah.
So I know we're overtime on our overtime. So I want to go to Dory.
I'm gonna say what I'm feeling is we're rushing again. And what I suggest, I'm gonna make a motion, and my motion is that there be one more meeting this month outside of our time. Because it sounds to me like I'm looking at all these changes, and to be fully transparent here, I think it will take a while to get all these changes into this document and get it in the order that I'm hearing that people want it in. So it sounds like we need to do some work on the document still, and it's not ready. So my motion would be to do a second meeting this month for an hour and a half to review the document, but what everybody would need to commit to beforehand, reading the document thoroughly to make sure that it looks the way that it should, based on what you all are saying. Because what I'm hearing is the reordering of putting a citizen oversight board first and reordering the recommendations. So that's what I'm hearing. So I would make that motion to meet again with a reordered and updated document.
I want to second that, and I want to add that I'd like to make that an opt-in meeting. Essentially, I would like to invite more folks to participate in what we've been having as our kind of chair check-in and discussion. Because I know, and part of that is the recognition that many of you have said, I want to spend more time on this. And many of you have said, I am burned out and do not want to spend any more time on this.
So you would just invite them to our chair organization meeting when we set the agenda, and we spend time finishing this. And then we do our,
I also want to remind us that I think it's January 26th, we're supposed to meet with council.
Yeah.
This has to happen in the next week and a half.
Okay, yeah.
That's fine.
So
Right.
we need to make the additions, turn it around to have everybody read it by next week. We meet third Wednesday. Oh my gosh. Wednesday, so 2 weeks from now.
But we can meet, we can meet.
You want to meet next week instead? You can meet next week instead.
I'm happy to do that with
Or
y'all.
Paolo.
We will need, no, it's fine. This is the most important thing in my workplace. What was I gonna say? We need a minimum of 7 for people, especially if any, because decisions will be made in that space. So do we want to throw out dates, times now? Do we want to stick to that time for next week of Wednesday at, 3? I forget.
3. Next Wednesday at 3?
Next Wednesday is 3. So that means that chairs and we will add the motions and recommendations that we came up with today. And we ask that everybody read the recommendations as they are by, I'm going to say Tuesday next week, so that myself, chairs, and 3 other folks can meet to adopt it formally. And then in turn, we will be able to present it to council on a roundtable on the 26th. I didn't mean to sabotage the motion. That's what I think I heard.
No,
right?
let's do, that was a good summary of what that motion was. So let's do, Kathy, is that a question?
Yeah, yeah. Was the motion seconded? I'll
No.
second it first.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. How about if some of us want to work a bit on rewording some of these?
We can't, we
Good.
can't. We cannot have, we have to have our meetings, have to follow this very structured public process.
We're public
So we
officials.
can't do, yeah, we can't do,
You can't do
we can't do the equivalent of meeting offline at a coffee shop. So, but what we are asking for is that
Yeah.
bring those suggestions for rewording directly to chairs, and that can be done via email.
Okay.
So we've got this on the table. We've got a motion, we've got it seconded. Spencer, is that a question?
Can we get a clean copy without all of our tablet comments?
I think the intention was to keep the comments, right?
For presenting to council?
Yes, absolutely, because I believe council, we hold so many different perspectives as individual people that it is a good thing for council to see those recommendations.
Okay.
They showed with me that they like it too.
Beautiful.
Well, some have.
We're going for a document that they'll be able to use that has.
Yeah. And I just want to bring up something else that Dory mentioned earlier. I think it was Dory that mentioned earlier that we're striving. Oh my God, what are we striving for? Good enough, not perfection. Was that what you said?
We're also striving to push. We are not striving to be done. We are striving to start the work. What I see us striving for is we are striving to push a large group of decision makers to put as much work into this as we have put into it over the last 7 months.
Can I propose that I get 4 individuals who are not Laurel, Joy, and Dory, who do you know if you are available next week, Wednesday at 3 o'clock? So that's Cameron, Spencer, Lisa. Oh my gosh, I'm saying this.
I commit too.
Cameron, Spencer,
So we've got Kathy, Spencer, Lisa, Cameron, and Stephanie. Am I missing anyone?
I will send you all invites. We will meet next week at 3. Everybody will have read the recommendations and sent their, what does this mean? We have to have the recommendations done and back to you by, oh my gosh. Chairs, when do you think we could turn that around for folks to read this week?
Dory, you're muted.
I'm going to say, Paula, let's just take our time to talk about that because we can, you and I can talk.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to y'all tomorrow.
Well, no, just
reach out
for 5 minutes afterwards.
Got it.
Okay. In that case, is it all right then? It is 9 p.m. and I would like to let people go with the this is a thing I quote all the time from work, accept and expect non-closure. Accepting that the work is ongoing. Let us take this moment to pause it. Let's not end it, but let's pause it. Let's adjourn for the evening. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much for giving your time again. Please go hug your family members who are in your same household. Don't expose yourself to risk. And thank you so much, everybody, for being here tonight. And it sounds like Dory and Paolo are sticking around. I'm gonna bow out, but Dory, you're better at all this than I am anyway. So
you're pretty good.
Good night, and thank you so much, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.